All right, we are recording. So Nate, welcome back. It's been a minute,
Thank you.
as the kids say. Yeah. And just to give a little context, Nate and I spoke, I think, in the middle of December. And then we were catching up yesterday or the day before, and Nate shared with me that he's down in Mexico, which I didn't realize. And actually, that's what we thought we might talk about as a kicking off point is, last time we talked about your journey and sort of putting your career together so far. It's kind of the career so far journey. And then I found this just really interesting and exciting that you had moved down to Mexico for now. So I would love to hear how that happened.
Sure. Also, obviously, thank you for bringing me back.
Yeah.
And it seems like a good time to do it, since it was like 6 months ago or like late December. I think it was
Yeah.
6, get in there, maybe like 5 months. Yeah. So with Mexico, I quit my job in September, and then started working for myself during the fall. And traveling had always been a dream of mine when I was younger. I just could never do it because, I had a full-time job and just 2 weeks vacation and stuff like that. And I remember meeting so many people abroad who had quit their jobs and were traveling, who were traveling while working, and just had all this like freedom and stuff. And I would get back home, because I had to go back to work after my little like 1 week, 2 week, 3 week vacation, just miserable because, all I wanted to do was what they were doing. I thought that was so cool. And for years, it just never seemed possible because I always had like a regular full-time job. And, coming home from some of those trips was just awful, feeling miserable and stuck and depressed. And then fast forward a few years, or maybe like 4 or 5 years. And then I quit my job in September. I think in October or November, I was like, shit, like I can kind of do that now. And winters in Philly are brutal sometimes. Just like New York, I'm sure, like winters can be miserable and cold. And I'm not much of like a winter type guy. Plus with COVID, it was like, geez, like, I don't know how I'm going to feel like being stuck inside because, COVID obviously, and then it's just cold and it gets dark early and it's miserable out and there's snow. And I was like, I had been itching to move anyway. And I was like, what if I just move abroad? And, I was looking at places and what their restrictions were in terms of COVID and stuff. And, Mexico was pretty open, same time zone as well. So it wasn't anything drastic, like a 12-hour difference or a 5-hour difference. And I was like, I'm just getting started and some clients, so I don't want to disrupt anything by having a ridiculous time zone. And also Mexico's pretty convenient, like a 3-hour flight back to the States, in the event of an emergency. So I think within a month, I think when I spoke to you, I was already in the process. Within a month, I started selling everything, broke my apartment lease, canceled my car insurance. I mean, everything, sold all my furniture, et cetera, and picked Mexico, like an hour south of Cancun. And
did you go down? Did you go down before you moved, or you just moved?
No, totally winged it. Yeah, which is what I do with pretty much every choice I make. Just do it and see what happens.
Okay, so you didn't line up a place before you went down there, or?
No, I had an Airbnb. I got an Airbnb for like first week, and then I figured, get settled into the Airbnb, and then start physically looking once you're there, so I can get an idea of neighborhoods and stuff. So yeah, I got down here, started looking at places, found a place in a really nice neighborhood. It's like a 5-10 minute walk to the beach. And yeah, that's where I've been since.
And it's a funny question, but how much stuff did you bring with you? Like how many bags?
A backpack.
Wow. That's it.
Just a backpack.
And your laptop.
I mean, it's like a 40-liter backpack. It's like a, legit like backpacking backpack, but it's still just a backpack and small enough. It's a carry-on. So no check luggage or anything like that. It's pretty small. It's really just clothes, laptop, and like necessities.
Had you researched things like internet and stuff like that before you went down?
Yeah, so I needed to make sure that Wi-Fi was stable and that internet was good, and some infrastructural things that I wanted to make sure were there, because maybe like 5 years ago I would have been okay like roughing a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But as much as I do like traveling, I still work and I still like, my creature comforts and amenities and stuff. So I wanted to make sure I had a place with AC, good Wi-Fi, pool would be nice. So this place has a pool and like a balcony. And I mean, it's nice. It's pretty nice. 5 years ago, maybe I would have been like, I'll sleep on the floor, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. But now, I wanted to make sure that those things could be had. So I did some research, but really not much.
Okay.
Enough to kind of like have an idea of things. And then I was just going to figure it out once I got down here. If so many other people could do it, and there are a ton of Americans here, and Europeans, American expats, people from all over the world. And I figured, they can do it, I can do it. So what could be bad about it?
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I'll speak for myself. A lot of times I'm like, oh, that'd be great. Let me go to Mexico and work, but I don't do it. I've done similar things, but I guess as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, okay, when does somebody do things and what gets in the way when they don't? And are you somebody that when you think about something like that, you just kind of go for it? Or is there a process you go through to sort of
No,
gear
I'm
yourself
usually,
up?
if I really want something, I'll just do it and figure it out. I mean, there is a part of me that overanalyzes things and will try talking myself out of something, like, well, what if this goes wrong, or what if this goes wrong? But we both know that, when you start doing that, you'll end up convincing yourself not to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was speaking to my father about it quite a few times, because there were times I'm like, are you sure you think this is a good idea? And he's like, you're overthinking it. Like, if anybody can do it, you can do it. You'll figure it out. Like, you're a healthy, smart kid. Like, you stop worrying, or you're not going to do it. And he's like, you're 30. You can finally travel, and, work is steady. Do it now, while you can, or, you're going to miss that opportunity. So there were a couple times he had to kind of remind me of that, whenever I would start talking myself out of it. But from the time I decided that I was going to do this to the time I touched down here, it was maybe a month. So I really just had a month, and I had to get my passport renewed. So all of that within the span of a month, selling everything, cutting off all ties in Philadelphia, the apartment lease, all that stuff, passport renewal. Was just about a month, and it goes by fast.
I bet. Yeah, so I was a little surprised when you said you sold everything, because when you said you went, I just assumed that you sort of put things on ice, you put things in storage or something like that. But
no,
it seems like
no. My car, my parents were nice enough to let me park the car at their place. And it has like some boxes in it of like other stuff, but all of my furniture and most of my other stuff I sold.
Great.
Because I really wanted to kind of just like go for it. I didn't want to feel like I was kind of like half-assing it by still keeping stuff, or keeping my apartment and subletting it out. I wanted to be completely done. I think a part of that is I was in Philly for 6-7 years. My time in Philly wasn't great by any metrics. I mean, I was working a job I didn't like. I was extremely unhappy. And I was always itching to get out and find something new. So I think all of that had been building. So once the opportunity came where I was like, wow, I can realistically leave and not just like move to a new city in the States, I can actually go abroad. At that point, I was like, screw Philly. Like, I'm completely done. And I love Philadelphia. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'll always love Philly. But, you know, I at that point, 6-7 years after I'd been there, miserable, I was like, I don't need to come back. So
yeah, I was kind of curious how the idea hit you. I mean, you sort of hinted at it the other day, but because a lot of times, you'll be working away and then, it's like you see a commercial and you're like, oh, that'd be nice to go be near the beach or something. But obviously this hit you in a way that you were like, oh yeah, no, I can do that. So was there something different this time, or what brought up this thought?
I had, like I said, I always wanted to move out of Philly, and there were a couple places. So most of my friends live in the Northeast, like Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And I was like, well, maybe I can move up there. Since I can work for myself and from anywhere, I can maybe move up to Boston area or somewhere else in Massachusetts, and be closer to my friends. And I was like, but I don't really like it up there. And I don't want to, I love my friends, but I don't want to move somewhere I don't like just because of that. And then I was looking at Austin, Texas, because I love Austin. I've always wanted to live in Austin. So as I started getting further in the map of the continental US, I'm like, okay, well, Austin's a possibility. And it's like, well, shit, California is a possibility too. And my brother lives in San Diego, so I was looking at apartments in San Diego. And of course, once you start seeing that the map get bigger, and you're like, God, I can move anywhere in the States. Then it becomes, well, shit, I can leave the States and go further. So at that point, I was spending hours a day just looking at all over the map. Like, where's a good place to work remotely, outside the US? Where's like a digital nomad hub? Like, blah, 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 doing a ton of research. COVID had kind of threw a wrench in things just because a lot of places were closed. And I think the two that were like open at that time, or open-ish at that time, were Mexico and what was it? Either Indonesia or Thailand. I think it was Thailand. Yeah, I think it was Mexico and Thailand. And Thailand seemed great, but the time zone sketched me out just because it's like 12 some hour difference. And I was like, I'm not there yet in terms of business. And I can speak decent Spanish conversationally. Mexico's closed. So I was like, well, screw New Hampshire and the Northeast and Austin and California. Like, what about just getting out of the country? Yeah.
And did you think of a time frame?
Yeah, I wanted to at least a year. I wanted to do at least a year. There's some benefits to being out of the States, working for a year as an independent contractor. When it comes to taxes, there's a federal tax benefit for it. So it was like, well, if I stay out of the States for an entire year working, I can maybe try to get this tax benefit. And also it's just, I didn't want to, I wanted to give it like a good college try and, just see what happens. The good thing is if, anything happened and I had to come home, it's a 3-hour flight. It's nothing.
That's great. Have you been home since?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I'll be back in Philly to see my family and stuff for maybe a week next month. But that'll be the first time in 6 months.
Got it.
I haven't really felt the need to come back.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was also noticing that, you know, when I think of a possibility, like go somewhere else, you're looking for any evidence or any examples that sort of nudges you in that direction. At least that's how I do it. And COVID's been an interesting time in that respect, because a lot of people are working remotely now. I mean, not only everyone's working remotely, whether they've moved or not,
Right.
but I've noticed a lot of people who have taken advantage of it and are kind of moving around the country and just working from different locations. So,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if any of that kind of played into you. Like, were you seeing examples from other people?
I think where I drew like the most inspiration from was, and where I driven a lot of inspiration from even prior to that, just over the years, was always people that had quit their normal job and started a business and had that freedom. I think that's what I had always looked at for inspiration and as examples of this is possible. Because as much as the traveling thing was always a dream, quitting my job and starting a business was just as much of a dream. It just so happened that the business that I started allows me to do the other dream as well, which is travel. So I think I drew most inspiration and looked at people that had quit their jobs and then kind of did whatever they want as examples. But seeing people work remotely and kind of move around a little bit who are employed, has made me realize, like, these people might get turned on to the idea. More and more people will get turned on to the idea that, wow, this is possible. Like, I have some more flexibility. Because, I mean, when you're in an office, 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day, for the same schedule, Monday through Friday, you really don't have that flexibility, which is unfortunate. But
And how has it been so far?
Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. I want to come home. God, it's overrated.
This experiment sucked.
Yeah, this is a terrible idea. I mean, overall, I gotta say it's been fantastic. I think my only disappointment, and it's not a disappointment in the country, it's a disappointment in myself. I expected to go on a bit more adventuring and exploring more. And I feel like if I was younger, I probably would, but also I still work. So, most of my time is spent working. And not really going on adventures or exploring other parts of the country. And because there's no timeline, you don't feel the necessity to go do those things.
Got it.
If I was here for a month, I would try to fit in as much as I could and, travel to different places and, visit other things in Mexico and stuff. But I don't have that expiration date. So there's nothing really pushing me to be like, hey, take a week off of work and go to a different part of the country and explore some stuff, like get out there in nature, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm kind of disappointed in myself, but it's something that I try to consciously think about, like, soon you got to take a week off, take 2 weeks off and go see stuff.
Yeah. Have you made a list of places you want to see there?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I could rattle off like 20 right now, and I've looked at flights and I've looked at our itineraries and how to do it. And I mean, it's
great.
So I just actually have to make the effort to be like, close the laptop,
right,
bring it with you, but like, just get the hell out of your apartment and go do it.
Got it.
But you get caught in a routine, and like I said, because because of that routine and because I'm here indefinitely, I never feel much pressure to go and do stuff. And I think, 5 months after being here, you settle into things become kind of normal. Like, for the first month, it was like, wow, I'm like in Mexico right now. And, this is new and shiny and cool and stuff. And I think now it's it's still great by all means, but sometimes most days it just feels like normal life.
Got it.
And I think that's dangerous. And I have to make an effort sometimes to remind myself it's not really normal, and you should be grateful, that you're doing this, considering, where you were, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and also where a lot of other people are as well. So really appreciate this and don't take it for granted.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I mean, you're in the midst of this, like you said, you're going to be there at least a year. Has this made you start thinking of like what's next?
In terms of the business, or?
Well, in terms of the business, or in terms of, maybe there's another city on the other side of this one, or is that going to be home base for now? And
no, I'm getting the itch to leave. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
As places start to open up, I mean, I'm starting to look at some maps. Europe seems interesting, and I just had a couple friends here leave yesterday to Bali. Other places in South America, even going to a different city in Mexico and setting up a base. There is that itch. I think maybe sometime this summer I'll probably head somewhere else.
Got it.
In terms of the business, oh gosh, sometimes I think I own the business, and really the business owns me.
Yeah, that's what they say, right?
Yeah. I think sometimes I'm in control, but it can be all consuming. It keeps growing, which is great. The clients keep coming in, and the work's not stopping, and bigger clients and bigger contracts, which is fantastic. But if I continue to scale, at some point it's like, I sacrifice a little bit of flexibility and mobility. And I think, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, do you have other people on your team or other people that you work with, or do you do most of the work yourself?
So sometimes I subcontract things out, but not often. But as of late, I'm starting to consider, maybe having like a more permanent subcontractor who can assist with everything, or even expanding services. And, I think about that, and, I would love to keep doing this and then maybe convert into like an agency, an SEO agency, with a small team that offers quite a few services. But then I'm like, if I want to do that, how realistic is it to do it abroad? Would it be better to find a home in the States? At some point I'm going to want to come back to the States and find a home base. I love my apartment, but it doesn't really feel like home. Nothing in here is mine. I only have a book bag, like a backpack. So, at some point I'm going to want that sort of home base where something feels like my home. I don't know when. And also in terms of, expanding into like an agency, I don't know if it's better to try to do that while here or do it abroad. Should I get office space? Should I do it 100% remote? I mean, like you said, people are working remotely. So do I even need office space for a team? All those questions.
Yeah.
So, 50% of the time, I would say 75% of the time in my business, I'm working on other clients. And of course, 25% of the time I'm working on the business. And these are all things I'll have to contend with and think about. But I went back and watched the video, our call from December, and, a lot has changed in those five months in terms of, I think, both the person and the business itself. I think both in great ways. There's a part of me that wishes I could go back to that person in December and be like, I know you're really, really excited, and that's great, things are going to get more stressful, but they'll work out, blah, 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 because even just in 5 months, I think I'm in an even better place than I was in December. Mexico
fantastic.
or no Mexico.
One thing I'm interested in is, well, years ago, there was a point where I left a regular job and I sort of went out on my own as a coach for the first time. And as a consultant, but basically I left the 9 to 5, right? And I had this concept of what that was going to be like and the freedom that it was going to allow. And I just had this idea in my head of, I'm going to be like working from cafes and all this stuff. And I did that for a day or two.
And then what?
And then I swear, like probably within a week, I had recreated my work routine just at home.
Right.
It was the same rhythm, it was like, get up, I would get to my desk at the same time, almost as I would get to work, and do a little work in the morning, take a break, so it was amazing that I had turned it back into that. And I had sort of built in the same stress too, which is funny because I was working for myself. And so after a couple more weeks, that kind of hit me, and I was like, all right, we got to start again. Like, we got to redesign this again.
Right.
And I think that's an ongoing process, because you buy some freedom, but I'll speak for myself. A lot of times I don't take advantage of, like, I'll work at home rather than working at a cafe that, I might enjoy that.
Right.
So I'm kind of wondering what new rituals you've discovered there, or is it the same? Did you just bring your rituals to Mexico, or
I would
the
say
same?
Pretty much brought them to Mexico.
Got it.
I see especially on Instagram and social media, a lot of people that are abroad and working, they're always like taking pictures of them working on the beach or working at a cafe. And I see them like, how the hell are you getting any work done at a cafe? Like,
yeah,
I can't comprehend it. And then people back home, even like random people on the internet, are like, oh my God, like, you work for yourself and you live in Mexico. Like, God, your life must be so easy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, maybe, but how do you really know? I'm still responsible for myself. The job is difficult, and yeah, like, things may on the outside look really nice and easy, but it's still the same. You still deal with the same BS. Like, the same BS back home is the same BS. That doesn't change. Like, the location changes, but social media and movies and TV will make you believe that most people are just here at the beach half the time, and
right.
That working for yourself gives you all this freedom and flexibility, and I don't think that's true. Especially if you're trying to grow a business, or you're in like a competitive field or something like that. I probably didn't help that because I did bring many of the same rituals. I think the good thing is that I am very close to the beach, and there's a pool on my roof. And I've always loved to be in the water and swim. It's extremely relaxing for me. I've never once in my life ever lived anywhere where I can walk 10 minutes and be in the ocean, or take 2 flights of steps upstairs and swim in a pool. So I think the only difference in terms of rituals or lifestyle changes like that when it comes to work is that I do frequently take breaks in the middle of my day to go take a swim, either in the pool or I'll go to the beach. I would say I probably go to the beach maybe 3 times a week. And I'm in the pool maybe almost every day. Even if it's just for like 30 minutes, you know, nobody
Right.
ever goes up there. And sometimes it's really just all mine. It's a small pool. It's nice,
Right.
but
Oh, that's great.
so that sometimes does make me realize like, okay, yeah, you kind of did end up just coming here and working just the same and stuff like that. But you can take a break and go swim in a pool, and you can take a break and go sit at the beach and swim in the ocean. And, you know, I leave the door open and there's a nice breeze, and there's those like perks and stuff. But
Yeah, and there's, I just because you brought your rituals with you, I don't want to diminish where you are because, like for example, when I go work in California, it's just a different atmosphere. So I'm still working, I'm
right.
doing the same work, but at the end of the day, maybe I'm able to relax a little bit more quickly there than I do here. Um, so there is something about the context that's kind of cool and can lend itself to different rituals after work, perhaps.
Right.
Um,
I
so
I agree. Yeah, and I think that's spot on. I think I am happier, and I think I can uh, day to day relax more because I have outlets here to relax that I may not necessarily have had back home. Um, so are things better? Yes, but people
and it's
do.
and it's stimulating in a different way because it's new impressions. I would imagine, at least when I travel or when I work remotely, I'm just getting different ideas than I usually do because I'm not in my overall same context.
Yeah, I think so. I think some days kind of feel like this is just normal and stuff. But I would say 25% of it still feels like new. Like I still have new experiences. And yeah, like you were saying, it is just a different atmosphere. So,
Mm,
I walk to the store to get coffee every morning. But I still really enjoy those walks because yes, I'm walking down the same street to the same place to get the same exact coffee that I've had for the past 5 months. But it's like 80, 90 degrees out. It's super sunny. There's palm trees. I wear a bathing suit and nothing else. So there's like those
right.
little like differences. And that's why I was
Yeah.
saying, like, I try not to take it for granted and try not to,
Mm,
because I'm sure when I get back to the States in Philly, it'll be nice to be back in Philly, but I'm sure I'm going to miss this very
mm,
quickly.
yeah.
Um, and then be like,
What what's going on in terms of you know, your network of people that you interact with? You know, um, like have you met people there? Um,
yes.
because I don't know, in your business, in my business, like everything's grown from me meeting people, but that's the way that I've grown my business. Um, some people don't like some people it's online or something like that. So one of the things that I love about New York is just the rich kind of tapestry of people that I've been able to meet here. So I'm wondering how that's shifted for you from Philly to there.
So most of my clients are, they're, it's really just online based. I never have to meet any of my clients. Also, most of my clients are in just different parts of the world.
Hmm.
And I rarely ever, in fact, I don't think I've ever gotten any business from in-person interactions.
Hmm.
Um, so here, because you have a lot of expats and because it is kind of like that digital nomad hub where you have a
Hmm.
lot of people working from here, from the States or from Europe or somewhere else. So there are SEOs down here. And there's web designers and there's developers and there's all sorts of people, digital marketers, social media managers and stuff. I never feel the need to interact with those groups. Um, I have 4 really good friends here non-work related. They're just my social friends. But in terms of like work network here, zero.
Mm.
And I'm totally okay with keeping it at zero.
Mhm.
And I think there's I think the digital nomad culture can almost do a disservice to people, because I think everything is very appearance based here. So, if you're on Instagram and, you do social media management and, you have all these followers and get all these likes and stuff, and you're trying to sell people on your services, the first thing, one might think is like, okay, wow, they must be really successful. Like, blah, 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 look at this life they're living. They get all these likes and followers and blah, blah, blah. And you quickly find out that a lot of people here are struggling.
Mm.
Same with like anybody that, a lot of people that I have met who say, I'm an entrepreneur and I have this business and I have that business and I do this service and I do that service. The reliability isn't always there. And I think the reason they push that appearance is I don't think anybody wants to, quit their full-time job, start a business, move here, and come back as a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Even if their business didn't work out and they had to go back home because they ran out of money or their business didn't take off, that to me is still not a failure. You went and tried that. But I think, some people back home or society in general would see it as a failure. So people don't want to do that. So they'll keep up appearances that they have it going on. Their business has, 50 million in seed money, or, they're working with this client or that client. I think that's part of it. And then B, I think it's because people back home are jealous of it. And I think people like that jealousy. So they'll continue to feed into that image. I think it's no different than, you see people on social media, trying to sell courses or trying to sell some sort of whatever, and they're standing in front of like a Lamborghini to make it seem like that's their Lamborghini, when really it's just a rental.
Yeah.
You see the same thing here with people selling. We're showing, figures and numbers of, my clients got this much revenue in this much time, and, sign up for my program and you'll become a millionaire overnight. You have a ton of that stuff here. I know it sounds like I'm going off on this whole community right now.
No, but I get it, because I've seen all that stuff, and I think we're getting to a point now where I'd like to think that people are getting a little numb to that. Like when I saw the first guy with the Lamborghini, I'm like, well, is that really his, or did he rent that? But like for me, it was over the top. And then after I saw the 10th person who, said they were a social media expert and they're working on the beach, I'm like, really? So it made me skeptical of that.
Right. So you see that now and you think what, like BS, right?
Yeah, I think people are getting numb to it. I certainly am. I wouldn't take it at face value. Let's put it that way. And furthermore, it's funny, I never thought about this. When it comes to something like digital marketing, for me, that's a little incongruent. Like I'd rather see somebody in the middle of an agency talking about digital marketing, because it's congruent with what they're doing. And it's in other words, that's it. I don't want to see somebody selling me about basketball sitting on a beach. I want to see them on the basketball court.
Right.
You know what I mean? So to me, that seemed a little bit off.
Right. But what you just said is, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and what's really confusing about it now is, like, if I was going to hire somebody in that realm, I would have no idea who to trust, really, because it's like, it's like, oh yeah, we built one of those last week, and it's like, well, everybody said they built one of those last week,
right?
You know,
I
it's the same thing in the coaching world. Like everybody's a coach.
I have to imagine, yeah,
Yeah.
because I know the course industry right now is nearly toxic just because how
Yeah.
many coaches there are.
Yeah.
There's an abundance here. It's like every single one of them that isn't really a straight shooter packed up and moved here.
Wow.
And I think a lot of it is because they use the appearance of I'm on a beach and I quit my 9 to 5 and I'm here on the beach in Playa del Carmen. So you can do this too if you just buy into the service I'm offering you. When if you pick at that, they're actually really struggling and they don't have any clients and their reputation is not great and it's kind of it's just weird. I didn't really expect that, which is also why, because I get this question a lot because from people when they're like, oh my God, there's so many digital nomads in Playa, like, your network must be great. And I say, no, it's zero. I have enough clients back in the States or elsewhere in Europe. I don't need, I never feel the need to like put my services out there here, put my business out there. When it comes to my work, I'm pretty private here about it. My friends here know what I do, of course, and stuff. But nobody else does. Just because I think that kind of the community here it's really just hit or miss.
So I think we're coming up to a good time, but I'm going to drop a breadcrumb, which is, last time when we spoke, we really talked about the, kind of your whole career trajectory. And now you're here and you're growing your business. And there's part of me that's really curious, like what's at the next bend in the road. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit next time. Sure.
Yeah, I would be, hopefully by that time I've gone like supernova and I'm just
right. And hopefully I can make it to Mexico, man. I want to come down there. Forget everything we just said. I want to work on the beach or in a cafe in Mexico.
Water's warm. God, I try selling people on this dream all the time. Like, friends like back home who I know hate their jobs. I'm like, hey, look, take your free time, learn some courses, learn a skill. You can do this. But everyone's different.
I have to ask you, how's the food?
Not gonna lie, I mean it's pretty good like first few months, but you start to realize this is because it's close to Cancun and it's in the Caribbean, it's pretty touristy. You're not getting like a super authentic experience.
That's too bad.
The food's good, but much better Mexican food exists elsewhere in the country. I got to get out of here. I mean, I love this place, but I'm starting to feel the push to head somewhere else.
Well, I have a good buddy in Mexico City, so if you want to hook up there, I'll put you guys in touch.
It's on my list. I keep hearing amazing things about it. I'd love to go. That one is on my list. Great.
Cool. Well, let's hopefully the next time we talk, it won't be quite as long, but let's talk again soon. And thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Rob.
Thanks for chatting again.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Talk soon.
All right.